I loved to read. We lived 5-minute walk from the library, and I devoured mystery books. Nancy Drew, Dixie Belden, read the whole series, went back and read them again. And I wanted to be a detective. So I made these little ID cards, and my best friend and I, it was Sarah and I, and it was our detective agency. And we went around on our bicycles solving crime in this little village that we lived in. We did things like go into abandoned houses, things that we really shouldn't have been doing. But we were investigating. Oh, you have to do that when you're investigating. So I showed my business card to a little boy in my class, and he scoffed at me. He said, "Girls can't be detectives, only boys are detectives."
Well, welcome back. This week on the Connectors podcast, we're joined by Gail Grant-Park, author of the Gallagher Girls Mystery Series. With Masters in Library Science from Syracuse, Gail spent her career as a librarian before retiring to Boise, Idaho, where she now writes, paints, gardens, and traces her family history. As part of our fall series, Redefining Leadership, we'll explore the stories behind her mysteries, her writer's journey, and why she chose Ireland as the backdrop for her books, along with a peek at her newest projects, including a memoir and a semi-autobiographical children's picture book. Thank you so much for joining us today, Gail.
Thank you for having me. It's a privilege to be here. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So there's a lot there to cover in your backstory. I'm always curious, and we kind of usually start off our with our guests, like sharing a little bit of their story. And I always like to know where people came from to get to the place they are now. So what was the thing that sparked writing for you? Where did that start for you?
Well, I've always been a journalist. So I've kept journals and poured out thoughts that nobody else needs to know there, kind of therapeutic type thing. In 2019, I want to say, is a more recent journey. My daughter is a poet, and she was in a writing group in Washington, and she invited me to join her. I wasn't really writing anything at the time, but she's a very social creature, wanted me to be with her. So I joined this writing group, and they were in the process of writing an anthology. And so I put together a short story and joined their anthology, and that was published in 2019. And it's called Rainfall, a Rainy Day Writers Anthology. The group is called the Rainy Day Writers. And so I did a short piece in there based on a trip that we took in 1990 to Berlin. And we were right there at Checkpoint Charlie when they lifted up the checkpoint and opened up the Berlin Wall, took sledgehammers to the wall, and was an historic moment that we just were immersed in. And so seeing the contrast between the East and the West, being allowed to go into the East for the first time and seeing that contrast was very stark and impactful for me. So my story in there is called Escape in Three Movement, and it's about a family, a couple of siblings escaping during the Cold War through the Berlin Wall. So that was my start. And it was fortunate because we had an editor in the group and someone who was a graphic designer and someone who had published before. So they knew all the ins and outs, and it was an in-house project completely. And so that's where I got all this information on how to do it, how to write and publish. And so from there, I just started writing.
Isn't that beautiful? And all those connections come together in one place.
Exactly. Yeah. And I find writers are so willing to share their talents and their abilities and to help new writers along and give them the ins and outs and share information. It's really helpful.
Until your book starts selling out more than theirs, right?
There's room for everybody.
Yes, I agree.
That's just such an impactful moment with the fall of the Berlin Wall. Like, you speaking about you being over there at the time. I was born in Zimbabwe, and I remember like we were having a barbecue at some church group barbecue thing, and all the adults called us out of the pool and they said, come watch the news, this is like a moment in history that you will remember forever. Right. And I just remember being struck by this. Oh my God, like a country is becoming united.
Yeah.
after being separated for so many decades. It was
You always
a big
remember
moment.
where you were when historic things happened, and it was just amazing that we were right there. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Did you
Yeah, what
know
an
that it
experience.
was going down at the time, or were you just on
no,
holiday in Germany and
no,
visiting
we
Berlin?
went with my son's Boy Scout troop, had
Okay.
just arranged a trip to West Berlin, and so we all went in cars and drove together, and then that's when it just happened while we were there. We didn't go get tickets ahead of time to see the show. It was like, oh my goodness, this is the weekend, it's happening, and when we were there.
Wow.
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 What a
Can imagine how well, that obviously was very impactful for you. And it was at the start, I guess, of your sound like it was the start of your writing journey. And how did the Gallagher girls start to come into play? And yeah, why are your books set in Ireland? How did you get into uh,
Well,
wanting to be
Ireland.
in that landscape?
Why Ireland? Why not Ireland? Have you been to Ireland? I mean,
I
really?
have not, but
beautiful.
everyone I know says it's amazing. So yeah.
Well, I'm one quarter Irish, but that quarter has kind of taken over the rest. So it's the main quarter.
It's the big slice.
It's the big sized quarter. So I have cousins in Ireland, and I've been in correspondence with them for 40 years doing family history and genealogy. And I just was fascinated by that story of the Great Hunger, the migration. My great great grandfather came over in the 1880s, and that was after the main famine was over, but the impact was so widespread, where no jobs, still no food, just poverty, that they were continuing to migrate. And so he and five of his siblings came over in the 1800s. And so I just wanting to connect with them, learning their stories, and loving the country. And I just was drawn to writing their stories and putting it in their homeland. So I have some Canadian ancestry. I have a lot of Quebecois ancestors, and I took their stories too, but I put them in Ireland as well.
Nice.
So so they
It's
get an
interesting.
homage.
It's interesting
Yeah.
you mentioned your quarter feels like the biggest quarter, your quarter Irish, because I think when I was 12-ish, I found out I was quarter Indigenous, like Canadian
Mm.
Indigenous, and and at certain points in my life, that quarter has been more amplified, and I've really,
Mm.
focused on it and paid attention to it. And I'm a mixture in the other realms, and I don't really know, I know my brother did the ancestry thing, but you know, I've really embraced some of the culture and what it means to me, and I think
Mhm.
that's really cool when something stands out, for you, that resonates for you. So yeah, back to you.
Well, it was helpful that I had those cousins over there, because I would send them. I would
Hmm.
pick their brains all the time. Like, do you say this? No, we say this. That's more of a Northern Ireland phrase. We say this
Mm.
instead, or those kinds of things. And then they proofread the books and read them ahead of time, and they corrected a few things. So it was really helpful to have. And then I took a trip over there in the summer after it. Well, it I finished writing it in July of 2023, the first book. And so I had a proof with me, and I brought it with me to Ireland. My daughter and I took a trip over there, and we met these cousins for the first time. We had corresponded for 40 years, but had never met in person.
Love
And
it.
so it was just, I mean, we pulled up to Marion's house, and she's standing there, and she comes out and she gives me this big bear hug, and she says, finally. And then she'd never even corresponded with my daughter, and she pulls her into a hug and said, welcome home. It just gave us chills that they
Oh.
were so
Hmm.
loving and accepting, and we were family, and that connection was so strong. And so I gave them all copies of the author copies of the books, and that trip then opened up the door for book two, because everywhere we traveled, I would say, that's got to be in a book. That's got to be in a book.
Hmm.
So book two, The Body in Brunaboina, is all about that trip, pretty much all the places we visited. So
Oh
Isn't that
wow.
Wow,
How
that's
many
cool.
books do you have in the
There's
series
three.
so far?
It's
There's
a
three.
trilogy.
Okay.
So We Are Shadows, an Irish ghost story, is the first one. And that took almost 2 years to write because I was new at it. And I did like three, there, each book is made up of 4 to 5 mini cases that these three sisters solve and help the
Love it.
ghosts. And so I had three of those stories, and I sent it to an editor, an Irish editor, and he said, it's too short. You need to expand it, put another story in there that will pull them all together. And I had this romance in the beginning, and by the end of the book they were planning their wedding, and he said, no, 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 that's too fast for the Irish. They are going to be engaged for years.
10 years.
So I kind of added another story and stretched it out a little bit, but I had to put a wedding in there. So
I love that.
I love it.
So, I want to talk a little bit about the writing process because I've never written a book. Both Quentin and I have talked about writing books. I feel like everybody's writing a book these days.
That's right. Good Lord.
So, for your first attempt at it, sounds like you had some really great people and resources and mentors around you to support the process. What did you find were some of the challenges that you faced as you were writing?
Well, there was a big research curve because for some reason I had to put it in a culture that was not my culture. So that was a challenge, doing researching all the slang, all of the foods, all of the geography, the myths and the history and the all those things come into the book, and I didn't know anything about it, and so that's why it took 2 years to do the first one. It's a lot of research, a lot of learning, and a lot of revisions. And then once the editor I got, he was great because he said he was a little bit more expensive than your average editor, but he would teach me how to edit my own book and show me
That's
the
great.
process. And so for future books, I wouldn't need him. So he wrote himself out of the picture by really teaching me what to look for. So he was great. And like little things like I had Moira Gallagher zigzagging along this country road. And he goes, no, 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 no. About 10 years ago, they turned that into a 4-lane highway. She's going to be zooming. She's not zigzagging. Little things like that were very helpful besides the engagement process. And pubs, like I named a fictional pub, and he goes, no, that's a British naming system. We name them after the people, like O'Donoghue's pub and Patrick's pub, not the bull and the cow pub.
All right, like we do here. Oh my gosh, in London we have so many of those, like Bear and Frankie's and the Fox and the Fiddle and
that's totally British. Don't put that in an Irish book. You will really be in trouble.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, he was really helpful.
That's interesting.
So that's why it took a long time. But then after I got back from that summer trip, the stories just poured out. And by then I knew these three sisters so well that all I did felt like I was just following them around and writing down what they were saying and doing because they were telling the stories. And that second book took about 8 months. And then the third one took, 4 months. The stories were just there, and they were pouring out. But I wasn't even thinking of a trilogy. When I did the first book, it was a standalone. And I had these, grandiose ideas. Well, now I get an agent, and now I get a publisher, and, it's going to be like bing, bing, bing. And so I do the query process and write to these agents and write to publishers. You learn that there's a window of time for some publishers where they'll accept unsolicited manuscripts. And so you write to them during that time, and you learn about what goes into a query letter, and you do all the right things, and then crickets. You hear nothing. But I heard back from one person who said, well, we really like the story, but we really like our authors to be writing series. Is this a series? And I immediately wrote back and said, why, yes, it is.
Of course it is.
Writing book 2 right as we speak. And then got down to writing book 2 and never heard back from her again. So that's why it's a trilogy.
But then you did
But
it.
you now
But
got
then-
a trilogy,
Yeah, then you did it. I think sometimes we need to say yes. What is it? You take the leap, or the step before the bridge is built. And I think that's
Mm.
partially entrepreneurship. I think that's part of being brave and trying something new.
Oh,
Was there any?
I just had
Mhm.
that vision of the Raiders of, not the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the one where
Yeah,
she steps out onto that bridge
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah,
Because he had the belief,
yeah,
it would show up.
yeah.
So, was there any point that you wanted to quit and just throw it all in?
No, it was really a driving force. I mean, like I said, I knew these sisters, they had these stories to tell, and I just was driven. I was like, I have to write these. But then when I
Mm.
finished the third one, it was like, I kind of wrapped it up and I'm thinking, I didn't hear from them for a while. It was like well, I'll just wait. And if they have more to say, I'll go
Mm.
for it. But so that's when I started focusing on this children's book and the memoir and marketing. I mean, oh my goodness, it's so hard to get your book in front of readers.
It's a whole
So I
thing,
joined
eh?
TikTok and all these.
Oh God.
Oh, tell us what you're
I've
doing on
tried
TikTok, because we don't have TikToks.
I've tried it for my music. It's not I
Well,
get
it's
no
interesting because I
engagement.
learned that there was a community within TikTok called Book Talk, where
Okay.
there's authors
Okay.
and readers and people who write reviews and just share books and recommend books. And so I said, I got to find an influencer in the Book Talk community that will read these.
Hmm.
So I messaged a whole bunch of them, and again, crickets. But two wrote back. I sent them copies, and they did reviews on them. And but then I got into this, and there it's all the connections. Like you find someone who knows someone, or you watch a TikTok who
Mm.
recommends someone else. And so there was this one woman in England who said, indie authors, you really need to connect with these two TikTokers who really support indie authors. One is about to open a bookstore in Galway and only focuses on indie writers. So
Cool.
I found her, and she had me fill out a form, and she said, yes, sounds like we'd love to have it. So I sent 3 copies of each book. So I sent her 9 books via Amazon UK, because that was before I knew there was an Amazon Ireland. So now I'll send them through
Mm.
Ireland, and it goes to Dublin to Galway. But it took a week for her to get, but it's much cheaper than sending them author copies through
From the
Amazon.com
US.
because of the
Yeah.
shipping. So now my
Yeah.
books are in a bookstore in Galway.
Very
Woo!
cool.
Congratulations.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
didn't even know there was an Amazon UK until I think it was 3 years ago, Quentin, when we sent over a gift card to Brody
Oh, yes.
from Amazon. He did our music for the show. He's a friend of Quentin's and now ours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was trying to send him one, and I was like, oh, you need to buy it for the UK version. I was like, oh, me living in my little bubble over here, I only think there's US and Canada everywhere. So,
Funny.
so that's all. Those are all great tips, I think, even for our listeners. Even the thing with TikTok, like if you connect with the right people,
Right.
it will lead you down a path, and you might find what
Mm.
you're looking for.
Well, and then
Mm.
there's one more thing about TikTok I wanted to share, and that is this other group this woman I found who started this group of writers, and she calls it, she's linked it to a separate website called School, SKOOL.
Yes. Yep. Familiar.
And,
Yeah.
and so she started a challenge for August, and I started the end of July, so it was perfect timing, called the Ink and Iron Challenge. So ink being writing, iron being exercise. So there's like 5 things we have to do. You have to write 500 words a day. You have to post a video on TikTok. You have to work out for 45 minutes. You have to take a selfie. Well, oh, and then drink 2 liters of water a day. And then you
Jeepers.
post and share, did you do all those things? But when
That's
you
good.
share your TikTok video, then everybody clicks on your TikTok video, makes a comment. And so it gets you started.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been
Mm-hmm.
posting a TikTok video a day for the month of August. And I went from 55 views of all my friends and family to almost
Oh, good
900
for
views
you.
on the latest one. So
So it's working. It's
yeah, so it's
working.
been fun.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
honing that skill of what works and what to post and
What
how
people
to make a
like
video.
and
So
how to pull them in. Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of learning, isn't it?
big learning curve. But
Yeah.
people are kind and they are helpful, and by looking at what other people are doing, you can see what to do, learn from them.
Yeah.
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 Exactly.
Quentin, you did a little 30-day challenge, didn't you, over the summer?
I do a 30-day. Oh, I was trying. Yeah, well, I was trying to do a challenge. So I'm a musician, and I used to be a music teacher, and I've decided that it's time to record my first album. So
Ooh.
I'm like, yeah. So I'm doing all the demos at home, and then I'm going to like that's the 30-day challenge that Joe's talking about. Is I've been recording this stuff at home in my own little studio, and then when I've got these demos ready, I'm going to take them to an actual studio and record the voice and the violin, and
So
then send.
what kind of music is it?
So this is focusing on really old jazz standards. It's the sort of stuff that Ella Fitzgerald, Etta James would play, and it's a style that's called jazz manouche. There's a very famous guitarist called Django Reinhardt, and he's like was world renowned for this, and he used to play from the 20s to the 60s, and he played with a violinist called Stefan Grappelli, and I'm a violinist, and Stefan Grappelli is like the style that I want to emulate. So I'm trying to do it all as like a little mini solo project where I do the ukulele, and then I record the voice, and I leave a little verse in for my violin solo, and then I record the
So
violin.
are you writing these songs yourself? Is it original music?
These are like old jazz standards that were written in the 1920s to the 1950s. And so they basically cover songs. I'm doing cover versions in a very jazzy style. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, it was fun to watch.
You put anything on YouTube?
I have got stuff on YouTube under my channel, Quentin Sheriff. And I have stuff on Instagram. And I've tried TikTok, but boy, I get nothing on TikTok. It's really tough. Yeah, it's been a tough platform. So I was like even debating, do I carry on with it, or do I just stick to Instagram and YouTube, you know?
I think it's important to find one or two that really work, because you can just get burned out and spread yourself. So it's Facebook and Blue Sky and Instagram, and it wasn't really going anywhere to new people. It was just the 3 or 4 people that are in my family saying, good job, good job. So, but TikTok, I've found, new viewers. So it's been helpful.
Okay.
Maybe just connecting Quentin with some people that are.
Like, follow, and subscribe on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. And find us at theconnectorshub.com. I want to bring us back to we were having a discussion about those DNA sites and genealogy sites and all that, because my granddad used to be really interested in our family history, and it's because we got people from like the UK and Germany and Holland, and then there were some people in Southern Africa and at the time Rhodesia, and then I was born in Zimbabwe, and anyway, all of this stuff, he was very interested in it. And I've debated a couple of times diving in and seeing what's in my family, and maybe even getting the DNA and like seeing if I could do the deep dive. But I'm kind of intimidated at what I will find.
Well, I did the Ancestry. No, I did 23andMe, and I don't recommend it. I mean, I don't think it's helpful. I don't think you get anything out of it, and your stuff is out there where you can connect with strangers that you don't know anything about them. And I mean, it's such a tenuous connection, and ancestrally, a DNA thing, that I kind of I did it, but I don't really do anything with it. But I do recommend doing, even just 4 or 5 generations, just see who your great grandparents are. And the platform I use the most is FamilySearch.org. It's totally free. Ancestry is good too for some things, especially my Canadian lines for Ancestry. They have something called the Douin Collection, Douin. He was a priest, and he copied all of the registers of the churches, and they're all digitized, and it's just amazing. All of those records are available there. But in order to get a lot of them, you have to pay for their extra package instead of just the free one. But familysearch.org, totally free, and has most of the same things. So that's where I mostly did my research. And yeah, sometimes you uncover things that aren't that, lovely, but everybody has those kind of stories. And that's what, those are the stories that I put in the books that are interesting to read about. I mean, it gives you what people's lives were like and what they went through, and you can connect with them in a way that is empathetic, and you really care about them. I mean, I never met my great 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 grandfather, but I care about him because I learned about what he went through, and I feel like it's reciprocal to a degree, because oftentimes I would reach a brick wall where I couldn't find anything, and I would just say, come on, Grandpa, where are you? Show me where these records are. And then something would open up where I would find them.
Oh, I love that. That
Can
is
I
so
tell you a ghost
cool.
story? Can I tell you a real ghost story?
Yes, please.
So a lot of the times I was doing this research, I started when I was 16. And so this was in the 1980s, I think. We were living in Belgium, where we were a military family. My husband was Army, and we did 24 years in the Army. So we were stationed in Belgium. And I was so involved in family history and genealogy. But over there, that was when you had to write letters to people because there was no internet. And so it would take forever to send a letter to the parish priest in Quebec and wait months for it to come back. And it was just really frustrating. But there was a woman in my circle who had relatives. They were from Canada. And my husband worked at the NATO Health Clinic. And so her husband was there, and she was from Canada, and she knew some women back there who were doing research. And so she got me in touch with them, another connection, a person who knows a person. And I connected with them, these two sisters who are really into genealogy. And I gave her my charts and said, I need information on these two families. So they took it. They got the films from familysearch.org and were in this little room with two microfilm readers all by themselves. And they put the film on the reader, and immediately they both turned to look to see who had entered the room. They felt like a crowd of people had just walked into the room. And of course, there was no one there. And they knew instinctively that it was these people they were about to find on these reels that were so excited to be finally found and connected to their descendants, that they were just allowed to be there, and they were all in the room watching like a movie, waiting for the
Ooh,
climax.
that's cool. Yeah. I love that idea. Even just you mentioning calling on your great great grandfather, for some energetic wisdom that he could send through, whatever realm that comes through. Sometimes I think about my great great grandmothers. And there's times when I have, like when I have time to rest and relax and be lazy, we are such in a culture of we have to do, produce. We feel we're not adding value if we're not being busy. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes I have these moments of I feel guilty when I'm being too lazy, or I feel guilty. But then I actually stop and I say to myself, you know what? My great, 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 great grandmother would probably be really happy at the fact that they did all this work when they always had to do really hard work in the time that they grew up in. And, here is someone down their lineage that now gets to lay on her couch and leisurely read a book if she wants to, and not, I think about that. We do have that luxury now to be more relaxed, and we're not in this, yes, there's a lot of pressure in our society still, yet it's, we don't have to live in survival mode like they did. And so that's what I think of sometimes. Yeah.
Well, and time to develop your talents, to do things that expand your mind or creatively. I mean, how creative.
Exactly. To be creative. they wouldn't have had that luxury to be creative at times.
Right.
Absolutely. So speaking as creativity, I'd like to talk about it in terms of like a leadership tool. And I think sometimes creativity can be undervalued. How does do you have kind of a specific creative process? Did you just sort of jump into it and see how it went? And what were, we talked a little bit about what something you got inspired by, but did you have any other writers or leaders mentors you looked up to as you were going through the process?
Well, there's two in the writing world. They say that there's two different types of writers. There's plotters and pantsers. The plotter makes the outline, puts a little summary of what's going to happen in each chapter. They have a background development of their characters. They've plotted it all the way out. And kind of there's a book called Save the Cat that talks about screenwriting, and that they go by that. Then there's the pantsers, who fly by the seat of their pants, and they just wing it. And I have to say, I'm a pantser. I mean, I'm just following these sisters around,
Okay.
writing down what they're doing. And I was mopping the floor the other day, and I realized that it's not just with writing. It's who you are. I am a pantser when it comes to housework. I mean, once the dog hair is attached to my socks, I'll sweep the floor. Once I see the cobwebs, I'll dust.
Yeah.
I don't say Monday I'm dusting, Tuesday I'm
Same.
Wednesday
Yeah.
I'm washing the floor, or monthly or yearly, tasks. No, it's like, oh, I should probably do that. There's a ring in the toilet. I need to do the toilets. So I'm a pantser in my whole life. But there is a book that has really been impactful to me, and it's called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And she
I love
is
her
the one who
stuff.
writes Eat, Pray, Love.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. She has said some things in there that just made all the difference. She talks about inspiration and where it comes from and what to do with it. And she tells a story about how she was, her partner was from South America, and he gave her this story that had happened in real life of intrigue along the Amazon. And she went, whoa, that would make a great story. And so she writes down some notes, and she starts to develop a note. She gets a contract from her editor to fulfill this book. And it's about a woman who lives in Chicago, and she falls in love with her boss, and boss sends her down to Amazon. He doesn't even see her as a woman. It's just, his secretary. And she gets involved in all these intrigues. And then they had to leave the country because his visa expired, and she went with him, and they were out of the country for over a year. And when she came back, she got her stuff, her notes out of storage, and it was gone. She couldn't remember any of what she wanted to write. Her notes made no sense, and she had to tell her editor, it's gone. I can't write this book. Shortly thereafter, she met, what's her name? Ann Patchett. I think it's Ann Patchett. At a workshop. They'd never met before. And she went up to her afterwards and said, I love your work. She said, I should never met her. I love you. And Anne could have gone, whoa. But she said, I love you too. And they embraced, and then they started a friendship, and they corresponded from coast to coast. And then a few months later, Anne says to Elizabeth, I'm starting a new book. And tell me about it. Well, it's about this secretary in Chicago who is in love with her boss. He doesn't see her. He sends her to the Amazon. And Elizabeth is going, wait, what? It was basically the bones of the same story that she had not done, and it had gone from her. And they realized the idea had hopped from Elizabeth to Anne during that embrace.
Crazy.
And so there's ideas out there that want to be fulfilled. They want to be fulfilled. And they'll latch onto an author or an artist or a musician because they want to be born. And if you don't do anything with it, it'll leave you and go on to another person.
Somewhere else.
That is so interesting because even in our 2-year journey with Joe and myself, we've talked about ideas and not actioned them, and then like a year later, boing, it's out there, and we're
Yeah.
like, oh my God, that's so cool. But that was our idea. But
Yeah.
it speaks to exactly the fact that you're saying
Yeah.
they need to be birthed and they need to
Yeah.
be around and talked
Yeah.
about or listened to or used, and they'll do it no
Yeah.
matter what. That's so
Elizabeth
interesting.
said, you know, what was my reaction? I could have said, hey, you stole my idea. But no, she said, I was so humbled and thrilled to be a part of that process because that was big magic.
I love that. And I
Yeah,
think that
lovely.
shows great leadership. You know, it's like you said earlier, Gail, there's room for everyone. I think when we get into these, especially in entrepreneurship, I see a lot of competitors, but I also see a lot of people wanting to help one another. And, you know, and we're all doing our own thing in a little bit different ways. And it's going to resonate with the right people that are attracted to what we're doing specifically, which means there is room for everybody. So I love that. That's a great story. Yeah.
There's a TikToker too who I found early on, and she just did this simple little thing like, let me show you how to, like when you're holding up your book, like if I hold up this book, this is a book too, by the way, and you can you see that it's backwards? The writing is backwards. Does it look backwards to you?
Yes.
Okay, so she said, here's the tool that you need on TikTok it's called invert, and it's a button down below, and it'll flip it so that it now is in the right direction. I don't
Very
see
clever.
that on this. I don't think I can do it on here. But that was
It's
great.
actually the right way.
think
I
you've
can
done
read
it.
it.
I think
You
you've
can
done
read it in the right
It
way.
was the
Yeah, I
right
think you've
way.
done it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Zoom or whatever this is must do that automatically.
This is Riverside, so it's
Interesting.
yeah.
So you can read that the right way. You can read the words.
We
Yeah,
can read
Okay.
the body in Bruna Boyne. Yes.
Okay.
yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, on TikTok you can't, and so you have to use this invert to flip it
Okay.
around so you can see the book.
Gotcha.
And so it's a simple little tool, but it makes you look more professional that you know how to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
so
Definitely.
in this Ink and Iron challenge, a girl was showing her book and everything, and it was reversed, and so I just put a little note in there. Use the invert button at the bottom, as and so just passing on the
The
information
pay it
that you
forward.
learned
Yeah.
to someone
Yeah.
else to help them out. It just, it's just the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Love that.
I love that you say it's the right thing to do. And I love that you say that the people around you are also obviously aligned to that. Like, okay, well, I've got this information, I got this knowledge, I may as well share it. And as we've been chatting, I've been noticing that they're all women. Like the only person that you mentioned, which was a male, was the editor in Ireland, and everyone else is a female. And I just think that's so interesting to note. You write about a group of plucky girls in Ireland doing cool stuff. You are clearly a strong woman. You have good relationships with lovely women around you who share. And I just wanted to pick up on that and say I love it.
Okay,
Do you
I'll tell you
find this
about the
different?
I'll
Do
tell
you
you
find this
about the
different in the
man.
male world, Quentin?
About the man who was the major influence was my dad.
Okay.
So I was in elementary school, and I was a reader. I loved to read. We lived 5-minute walk from the library, and I devoured mystery books. Nancy Drew, Trixie Belden, read the whole series, went back and read them again. And I wanted to be a detective. So I made these little ID cards, and my best friend and I, it was Sarah and I, and it was our detective agency. And we went around on our bicycles solving crime in this little village that we lived in. We did things like go into abandoned houses, things that we really shouldn't have been doing. But we were investigating. You have to do that when you're investigating.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I showed my business card to a little boy in my class, and he scoffed at me. He said, "Girls can't be detectives. Only boys are detectives."
Oh, come
And
on.
How dare he?
I was crushed because I was about to say, well, what about Nancy Drew and Trixie Belden, when I realized they're fictional characters. I don't have a leg to stand on.
But
So
did he know that? Did he know that?
he knew what he knew.
Mhm.
So I went home and just was devastated. I was sick to my stomach that I was living in this fictional dream that was not going to happen.
Hmm.
And so my dad recognized that I was not my usual cheerful self, asked me what was wrong. And I burst into tears and told him, and he said, Gail, don't listen to him. You can be anything you want to be. Magic words, the magic words that changed my life. And I went on to be a detective, solving my history mysteries of finding my ancestors, the missing persons in my family chart. And it just spread from there. I can do anything. I can do hard things. I can do
You
anything I
can do
want.
things.
And so
Hmm.
dad's my hero. He was there and said the right words at the right time.
That's beautiful. All the dots are starting to connect now. Now I kind of see how
Mm.
you've got to this place of creating these stories. And you were also a librarian at one point. Is
Mhm.
that correct too? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you already were surrounded by books and
Mhm.
stories and all the things.
Mm.
How did you come up with the characters in your book? Like, do you find you pick certain types of archetypes, and do you like that they have something for the audience to grasp onto, like whether their spirit, their leadership, their gumption, or whatever it is?
Well, they say that, there's a little bit of the writer in the characters. So there's three sisters and there's three bits of me in each one of them. Nuala, the youngest sister, is a dreamer, and she sometimes visits with her ancestors in her dreams. They come to her. And I have done a lot of dream work and was in a group of dream work participants. And we would do waking dreams and share our dreams and talk about what they meant. And so that's me in Nuala. And then Deirdre is an herbalist. And during COVID, we got nothing to do, right? I send away to an online herbal academy, the Chestnut School of Herbal Medicine. And so for 2 years of COVID, I was doing herbalism, medicinal herbs. I ripped out my grass in my backyard and planted herbs everywhere and became an herbalist and got my certificate that I'm an official herbalist. And so, these herbal medicines are just given to us. They're part of nature, but they're so healing and they're a gift from the universe
Hmm.
and from God.
Hmm.
And so Nuala's an herbalist and I'm an herbalist. And my son-in-law calls me the family witch now because of my
That's high
I
praise.
told
High
him
Yes, I
praise.
agree. I love it. I love
I
that.
told him I prefer crone. So
Excellent,
now
excellent.
I'm the family crone.
Like, follow, and subscribe on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. And find us at theconnectorshub.com.
And then of course Moira is the one who sees the spirits. And that's my wannabe self. I really want to be able to feel that connection with my ancestors and communicate with them in a way that really feels real. I mean, I've had dreams where my dad has come to me before, and I wake up and I'm in tears because of that connection again. Like I get to hug him in my dreams, and I'm
Mm,
crying in my dreams, and I wake up and I'm crying. So they
mm.
feel really real. And then I've had several really, I would say, revelatory dreams that have changed my life as well. So probably more Nuala than Moira, but I'm a Moira wannabe. want to do that connection with her.
Interesting seeing the characters where you see that you've got a little glimmer, but then you've built it in as like a core part of that
Mm-hmm.
character. Like, she does this. She's
Mm-hmm.
really good at this. I can look up to her now
Yeah,
and grow that part of me
yeah.
that does this, which is pretty cool.
That's really fun. That makes me want to write now, just because I feel like I'm at a stage of life where I'm finally embracing all the sides of me. It's like we have these dark sides, we have these good sides, we have, and it's the more I've learned to accept them and embrace them, they have something to tell you. They have, even your ego, when it pops up, it has something to tell you. There's something going on
Mm,
there. So I find that really interesting how you weave that into into your book. So that's very, very, very cool. What would you say to somebody who wants to be a writer, has never written before, and came to you and said, "Gail, I want to write a book. What should I do?" Do you have any advice?
You just have to sit down and do it. I mean, even if you just sit down and just write, "The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy," whatever it is, the lazy dog, which gives you all the alphabet. Just keep a journal, write a journal, write about things that you see in every day, and just expand on that and keep writing. When I was I'm in a lot of writers groups, like I'm on a online Zoom class. And again, when you're among other writers, if you join these groups and they help you, that's where the juices are going to flow. This one local group that I'm in also does, once a month they'll have a online Zoom class where you sprint together, where they give you a writing prompt and you have 20 minutes or so to just write on the prompt. And I was at the end of book 2. I finished The Body in Brunabonja, and I knew it had to be a trilogy, but I didn't have any ideas. I didn't know what I was going to write about. And so I went to this Zoom sprint group, and the prompt was, "There's a locked door." That's it. There's a locked door. And so I just started writing for 20 minutes, and I wrote the whole first chapter of book 3 in that sprint. It just came out. I just wrote, that's the first thing I wrote. "There's a locked door. None of the keys will fit." And then the whole chapter just continued, and I had Nuala talking to her maid who was cleaning the estate she lived in, and what was behind the locked door, and there was the ghost who took it the rest of the way.
Now that you were describing like the plotters and the pantsers, I can see how you're a pantser, like where you take a line and it turns into the first chapter. I would be such a plotter.
No,
I'm definitely a plotter.
Well, both work.
That's funny.
It depends on who you are, what'll work for you. You just have to find out who you are. Yeah.
Love it.
Well, I definitely learned something from today, for sure. Well, many things, but yeah, the pantser. I'm gonna look deeper into that, because I definitely think I'm the pantser too.
I definitely think I'm a plotter.
So funny. It's starting from somewhere. So just taking the leap to write something down and see where it goes, and then following that trail, it sounds like. You also tend to surround yourself with the right type of people, the right mentors. You're in writing groups. We talk a lot about that on the show here, about having mentors. I even had a t-shirt made that says "Your vibe, or your tribe is your vibe," because, whoever you surround yourself with, that's how you're going to, that's part of you. That's how you're going to be. So I think that's good advice and very important.
The research process, though, is the second piece. I mean, I come up with these little glimmers, but then I have to expand it. I have to find out more about it and develop it. And talking about my ancestors being the ghosts, there was a story that it wasn't that far back. It was my aunt who had a child out of wedlock, and she had to give it up for adoption. And I wanted to go with a story like that, but put it in Ireland. My aunt's gone now, but and so I put into Google "unwed mothers Ireland." Oh my goodness, the internet blew up on me, and I opened up this whole can of worms about the Magdalene laundries. Is that something you're familiar with?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Oh my goodness. And so I was inundated with the ghosts of these laundries, these women who were taken from their families because they were pregnant and unwed, or even just flirtatious, and their parents were worried about them, so they were put in these homes run by the nuns, and they had their babies. The babies were taken away from them. They were stuck there forever. They did manual labor for no pay. And so one of the stories in the last book is called "Buried Secrets," and it's all about the Magdalene laundries. And it's really the only time I got on a soapbox in my books and talked about a really not so current. I mean, it ended in 1996, but the repercussions are still
Oh, but
going on in
still.
Ireland. They're still trying to do survivor um, therapy and what's the word, redress their
The trauma and
yeah, the trauma, and also
experience.
give them financial restitution for their things that they suffered. So that's my soapbox. So I get up on that social issue there.
Well, same here recently, right? We just that just happened a couple of years ago with all the indigenous schools, what we found
Mhm.
out there,
Right.
and so, very similarly, there's a lot of restoration that needs to
Mhm.
happen there, and these kinds of things, what can be done at this stage? I don't know if
Yeah.
anything is going to make that. It's not going to change the past, but
No.
yeah, it's
But
definitely, I think, important
yeah,
to talk about and bring up. Yeah.
and acknowledging that it
And
happened,
acknowledge.
and
Yeah,
Hmm.
and recognizing the pain of these survivors, and
yeah.
showing compassion and empathy for them. So yeah, I got a little carried away in that thinking,
No,
Oh,
no.
that's okay.
I
but
was linking
yeah.
I was linking two ideas together, like Joe talking about her ancestors, seeing that she's relaxing and not
Hmm.
working flat out, and has the ability to develop hobbies and
Hmm.
has extra money for things, and then these women on the other side, and then like I'm gay, and there's always debates around like pride parade stuff where, oh, are you going to sell out to the banks or this or that, or because they're like big corporate sponsors and all that.
Hmm.
And my argument always is, you're here, take up your space.
Hmm.
Don't let anyone shrink down your space. Don't let anyone like try to put you in a corner or ignore these things that are happening.
Hmm.
Like, if the story is there to be told about these women or these situations,
Hmm.
it's because you need to take up that space
Hmm.
in whatever
Hmm.
arena it is. And like, to not get too political, but like the United States right now is not doing great for female rights and the female
Hmm.
voice, or any different sort of voice.
Anyone's voice is
So
being
it needs to be
stifled.
spoken, like people need to speak up and they need
Yeah.
to fill that space so
Yeah.
that others are aware that this is still an issue that needs to be talked
Yeah.
about.
You have a right to be
Hmm.
there, and your voice matters. You matter, and everybody
Hmm.
matters. And so
Yeah.
it's
I
not.
guarantee I was a witch in a previous life. I'm pretty sure I would have been burned at a stake.
By an ex-husband. Oh.
100%.
Sorry,
100%.
Joe.
No, that's okay. I love that we can laugh about
Yeah.
it.
In 2025, not
Yes,
1915.
exactly. Exactly.
We've come a long way, but not far enough. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
Well, Gail, this has
Wow.
been a beautiful discussion today.
I just think it's important to, like Quentin was saying, speak your truth and talk about things, because the more you engage people, the more you learn and the more connections you make, and the more you're both enriched. Um, I got another quick little story. Do you have time for a quick little
Yeah,
story?
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Go for it. Go
On
for it.
that trip to Ireland in 2023, my daughter and I signed up for a tour in the Burren. Have you ever heard of the Burren?
No.
It's a wilderness national park on the west side of Ireland, and there's not. I mean, it almost looks like a moonscape sometimes. Limestone and wildflowers, and well, you don't find the wildflowers on the moon, but the limestone, lots of rock, and it's just we signed up for this, and because I saw a picture, the tour guide's brochure, where she had 10 women and they were holding hands and they were dancing around this circle. And I thought, I want to do that. I want to be free in nature and dance, And so we signed up, and it turns out we're the only two on the tour. So we were with the tour guide for 4 hours by ourselves, roaming through this wilderness of the Burren. So of course we got to talking with her, shared a lot of stories, told her we were writers, told her what we wrote. And as I told her, I wrote these Irish ghost stories, she said, I had an encounter with the spirit. And so she told me this encounter that she had. And then I came home and I said, oh, I got to use it. I wrote it up, but I wrote to her, I said, can I use this story? And this is what I wrote. And is this what happened? And she said, that's perfect. It gives me chills just seeing how you wrote it. Go ahead and use it. So that's in book 2, is her encounter with the spirit that she had.
Cool. Beautiful.
Very cool. Did you make her dance in a circle?
No, we didn't. And I should have talked about that. I should have said, when do we get to
You
dance?
should have.
But she brought us to fairy ring forts and holy wells and just all of those so Irish things that beautiful.
Lovely. It shows too, the more that we share the things that we're doing and we're working on and that we like and are excited about, then that invites other people to do that as well. And then you learn something, make a connection.
Early on,
that's all part of it.
Early on when you're writing, there's this fear, like, I have to keep it close. I can't tell people what I'm doing because they'll steal my ideas. Or, I'm not ready to publish, but if I say anything, someone else will take it. But you can't do it, because even if 2 people wrote about the same thing, they're going to be different stories. They're going to be from a different perspective. They're going to be using different vocabulary, different types, writing styles. And so you can't hold it back. You've got to let it out there. And when you do, it grows and you grow and other people grow. And it's a beautiful thing. It's not something that you need to be selfish about or private about.
So tell us what Gail is working on next. What do you have?
I was about to ask.
So there's this picture book. This is children's story that I have wanted to write for my whole life, because it's about a camping trip that my family took when I was in elementary school. And it's been, a family story we've told over and over, and we always laugh about it now. But and I tried doing it myself, and I couldn't. I didn't have the skills at the time. So finally I just got down to it. Once I finished with the Gallagher girls stories in January, I wrote it up as a rhyme, like a picture book, rhyming book. And then I read all these things where picture book publishers don't want rhyming books. I don't know why. I love it when they rhyme. So I stuck with it. I wrote the books, and then I searched for an illustrator. I just found an illustrator that I really liked, connected with. He's working on the illustrations now. I'm basically waiting on him to finish up, and then it'll go to a formatter. And then I'm going to query some publishers to see if they're interested. And if not, I'll just do it myself, because it's mostly, it's a book I think will be commercially successful if I had the right vehicle to launch it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it anyway, because it's just a cool story of this camping trip that we did.
Very cool.
And then the other one is this memoir. I wrote my whole history, an autobiography, just for my family, but now I'm pulling out of it kind of a theme and cutting it down to just something that would be more commercially viable as a memoir. So
what made you want to do that?
Good Lord.
What made you want to write it for your family?
The autobiography. Well, we have lots of cool stories in our family, and I wanted to preserve them. I want the kids to know and the grandkids to know about our lives and preserve those. It's interesting, because I really believe if you don't write it down, it's gone. You don't remember it. I so wish that my ancestors had written journals or something.
Or the story changes, right?
Yeah.
It changes over time.
All I can get from them is like the bear, they had this many children and this many died in childbirth and this many, and you can piece together a story from the documents, but you don't have it in their words. And there was a time when my daughter was away at school, and she attended a workshop that just really changed her life. She had such an aha moment and these spiritual experiences, and she called me and told me about them. And after we hung up, I typed up a little thing and I said, my daughter just called and she told me this, and this is what happened to her. And it was so, uplifting and life-changing for her. And then, that was when she was 18, and now she's 40. And, 20 years later, I said, hey, you remember when you went to that workshop and you had that class and it changed your life? She goes, what workshop? Where was this? What? I said, you're kidding me. You don't remember? She goes, no, did I? Where was that? What happened? And I told her the story. She said, oh, yeah, I kind of remember something like that. It just broke my heart that she had no memory of it.
She didn't remember.
She didn't remember it. And so I
Yeah.
think if we don't write it down, those stories are gone. And so I want to preserve our family stories for
Right.
for
Even the
our
perspective within a family. I've been sharing stories with my older brother because there was a period of time he didn't live at home. And so now that we're older, we've been sharing these stories of things we remember, and his perspective and what he remembers is so different from mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? He's filling in gaps where I didn't remember something and vice versa. So that's been kind of fun at times. And I've written in a journal ever since I was young. My aunt gave me my first journal. And I wish I'd saved some of the younger ones, but I have journals from the last 10 years,
Nice.
which are juicy as F because it was post my divorce and all these things that happened.
Yeah.
And I told my mom, I think I was going to give them to my son at some point or leave them for my son to read. And she was like, oh, aren't you like worried what he's going to read or think of you? And I'm like, no, because at that point it's done and I've learned my lessons, and I don't, there's going to be stuff in there that I probably was going through a lot at the time. And but I think it's kind of fun to think about that he'll have something that he can look back at if he wants to read them, they're there.
Well, and I think you can connect with your parents or grandparents much better when you know their story, because when we're working on my husband's history now, and we got some letters from his mother that talks about her life. And when you read about what she went through as a daughter of immigrant Italians in New York City, and you go, oh, well, that's why she's the way she is. That's why she did that. That's what she was taught. That's what she learned from her mother. So no, it's no wonder. And you can understand where they're coming from, and maybe put in perspective some of the things that happened in that relationship that you didn't understand before. So, and it's good for them to see, well, you did this, but you overcame it, or what you learned from it. And they can relate more. If they think you never did anything wrong, they can't relate. And they have this unrealistic standard that they think they have to live up to that is unrealistic. We're all human, and so helps them to understand.
Very true.
Yeah.
Well, Gail Grant-Park, thank you so much for being with us today. I love
My
all the
pleasure.
stories that we've heard and have been shared, and I hope that some of this resonates with our audience. I think it will, and I think it was a great way to talk about all the ways in which our own stories can have a voice, and
where they can find your books, and where you are on Book Talk.
Okay, at Book Talk TikTok, I'm at Gail Park 12, and on my website is gailgrantpark.com. Easy peasy. So I can't even. I think the Instagram handle is Gail Grant Park as well.